I'm Sophia, 32, and I thought my dream wedding in Hawaii would finally make my parents proud. With my success in investment banking, I could afford to fly my entire family first class and put them up in luxury accommodations. $32,000 later, I discovered they used my generous gift for a European vacation with my sister's family instead. The text message still haunts me. You're not worth seeing in a wedding dress. Before I share how this heartbreaking betrayal unfolded, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if family drama stories resonate with you. Growing up in a modest neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I always felt like I was competing for my parents' attention. Eleanor and Richard Hamilton, my parents, never made it a secret that my younger sister Heather was their favorite. While most parents try to hide their preferences, mine wore theirs like a badge of honor. Every achievement of Heather's was celebrated with parties and gifts, while my accomplishments merely received obligatory nods. When I was 10, I won the regional spelling bee, beating students 3 grades above me. My parents skipped the ceremony because Heather had a soccer practice they couldn't miss. The principal drove me home, and when I walked through the door clutching my trophy, my mother simply said, "Put that somewhere it won't collect dust." That night, they took Heather out for ice cream to celebrate scoring a goal in practice. This pattern continued throughout my adolescence. I worked tirelessly, hoping that academic excellence would finally earn their approval. By junior year, I was top of my class, taking advanced placement courses and volunteering at the local hospital. Meanwhile, Heather struggled to maintain a C average, but excelled at soccer. Guess which one made my parents beam with pride? The real turning point came during my senior year, when college acceptance letters arrived. I received a full academic scholarship to Northwestern University, a prestigious achievement that would save my parents thousands in tuition. Instead of celebration, my father Richard commented, "Well, I guess that frees up money for Heather's soccer camps." The same week, they threw Heather an elaborate party for making the varsity team. Leaving for college was my escape. Northwestern's campus became my sanctuary, a place where achievements were actually recognized and hard work rewarded. I thrived in the finance program, securing competitive internships each summer. I rarely went home, finding excuses to stay on campus during breaks or visit roommates instead. After graduation, I landed a position at a boutique investment firm in Chicago, working 80-hour weeks to prove myself. While Heather dropped out of community college and moved back home, I was climbing the corporate ladder. By 27, I was headhunted by a prestigious firm in Manhattan, nearly doubling my salary. I bought my first apartment, a small but charming one-bedroom in the financial district. My relationship with my family had dwindled to obligatory holiday calls and occasional visits. Each time I returned home, my parents spent most of the visit updating me on Heather's life, who by then had married Marcus, her high school boyfriend, and had 2 children. They lived in a house my parents helped them purchase just 3 blocks away. "When are you going to settle down, Sophia?" my mother would ask. "Your biological clock is ticking." This despite the fact that I was thriving in my career, traveling internationally, and building wealth and independence. The contrast between my family and Nathan's became apparent the moment I met them. I met Nathan at a charity gala for educational scholarships. He was handsome in his tailored suit, but what truly attracted me was his genuine interest in my career and ambitions. Unlike previous dates who seemed intimidated by my success, Nathan celebrated it. Nathan ran a successful architectural firm specializing in sustainable design. He shared my work ethic and ambition, but also understood the importance of balance. After 3 months of dating, he invited me to his parents' anniversary celebration in Connecticut. Barbara and Thomas Anderson welcomed me with genuine warmth. Their home was filled with photos of Nathan and his accomplishments, alongside those of his 2 brothers. During dinner, they asked thoughtful questions about my work and actually listened to the answers. When I mentioned a recent project that had saved a client millions, Barbara raised her glass in a toast. "To Sophia," she said. "Thank you for sharing your brilliance with our son." I nearly cried. In one dinner, Nathan's parents had shown more interest and pride in my accomplishments than mine had in 30 years. Our relationship progressed naturally. Nathan supported my career milestones, attending company events and listening patiently when I needed to vent about difficult clients. I cheered him on when his firm won a prestigious design award. We moved in together after a year, combining our lives with surprising ease. The proposal came during a weekend getaway to Cape Cod. After a private dinner on the beach, Nathan got down on one knee with a vintage emerald ring, remembering that I once mentioned preferring colored stones to diamonds. "You're the most extraordinary woman I've ever met," he said. "I want to build a life worthy of your brilliance. Will you marry me?" I said yes through happy tears. That night, I called my parents, hoping that this news might finally bridge the gap between us. "We're engaged," I announced when my mother answered. After a pause, she said, "That's nice, dear. Did you hear Heather is expecting again?" It was clear then that even this milestone wouldn't change our relationship. But with Nathan by my side and the warm embrace of his family, I was determined to create the wedding of my dreams, with or without my parents' enthusiasm. Nathan and I initially considered a traditional wedding in New York, where most of our friends lived, or Connecticut, near his family. But during a late-night conversation about our favorite memories together, we kept returning to our first vacation as a couple. 6 months into dating, we had impulsively booked a trip to Maui. Those 10 days in Hawaii had been magical, from snorkeling with sea turtles to watching the sunrise from Haleakala Volcano. We talked about our dreams for the future while walking along Kaanapali Beach, the first time either of us had vocalized wanting marriage and family. "What if we got married in Maui?" I suggested, the idea forming as I spoke. We could return to where we first talked about building a life together. Nathan's face lit up. "That's perfect. We could have the ceremony on the beach at sunset." The next day, I reached out to several wedding planners specializing in Hawaiian destination weddings. After video consultations with 3, we connected instantly with Jasmine Kelly, whose warm personality and meticulous attention to detail impressed us both. "A Maui wedding is absolutely magical," Jasmine assured us during our first planning call. "But be prepared for about 30% of your invited guests to decline due to travel constraints." This statistic actually relieved me. While Nathan had a close-knit group of family and friends he wanted present, I was more selective. Outside of college friends and work colleagues, the only family members I truly wanted there were my cousin Rachel and my Aunt Patricia, who had always shown me genuine affection when she wasn't estranged from my parents. However, social expectations and Nathan's gentle encouragement convinced me to include my immediate family in the plans. "They're still your parents, Sophia," Nathan said gently. "You might regret not having them there." With Jasmine's guidance, we secured a stunning oceanfront property for both ceremony and reception. We selected a date 10 months away, giving guests ample time to arrange travel. The venue could accommodate up to 80 guests, which felt intimate yet sufficient. We spent weekends poring over color schemes, floral arrangements, menu options, and music selections. Nathan and I were aligned on most decisions, both preferring elegant simplicity over ostentatious displays. We chose a palette of seafoam green, coral, and gold, reflecting the natural beauty of the Hawaiian landscape. As our plans progressed, one concern kept surfacing: the cost for guests. Even with 10 months' notice, traveling to Hawaii required a significant financial commitment. While most of our friends had successful careers and could afford the trip, I worried about excluding people important to us. My thoughts kept returning to my family. Despite our complicated relationship, I couldn't imagine getting married without them. Yet I knew that the cost of flights, accommodations, and time off work would be prohibitive for them, especially for my sister's family with 3 children. During a weekend visit to Nathan's parents, I confided my concerns while helping Barbara prepare dinner. "I don't want to sound pessimistic," I said, chopping vegetables, "but I don't think my family will come. Hawaii is expensive, and they've never prioritized my milestones." Barbara placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Have you considered helping them with expenses? If it would mean having them there, it might be worth it." Later that night, I discussed the idea with Nathan. "What if I paid for my family's travel?" I proposed. First-class flights, resort accommodations, everything. They couldn't say no to that, right? Nathan seemed hesitant. That's incredibly generous, Sophia. But it would be several $1,000s. Are you sure? I had received a substantial bonus that year and had been saving diligently. The money was earmarked for a down payment on a future home, but this felt more important. I want to remove every possible excuse, I explained. If I cover all expenses and they still don't come, at least I'll know I did everything possible. Nathan kissed my forehead. If this is important to you, I support it completely. With renewed determination, I worked with our travel agent, Leslie Freeman, to price out packages for my family. First-class flights from Milwaukee to Maui for my parents, Heather, Marcus, and their 3 children, plus 10 nights at the same luxury resort where we were staying, totaled just over $32,000. It was a staggering amount, but my financial position made it feasible. I allowed myself to imagine my father walking me down the aisle, my mother helping with last-minute preparations, my nieces and nephew as flower girls and ring bearer. Maybe this grand gesture would finally bridge the chasm between us. Maybe they would finally see that I had built a successful life worthy of their pride. With this hope fueling me, I finalized the bookings, arranging for welcome baskets in their rooms and private airport transfers. I wanted everything to be perfect, a dream vacation for them and a chance for us to create positive family memories surrounding my wedding. As Jasmine helped us fine-tune details, I found myself becoming genuinely excited about having my family there. I pictured introducing them to Nathan's warm, loving family and imagined barriers falling away as they all connected. Perhaps this wedding could heal old wounds and start a new chapter in our relationship. With arrangements complete, I sent formal invitations with handwritten notes explaining that all travel expenses had been taken care of, along with detailed itineraries. All they needed to do was show up with their suitcases and enjoy a luxury Hawaiian vacation culminating in my wedding. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to hope that my wedding day would include the family I had always wanted. With everything booked and deposits paid, I decided to call my parents rather than wait for them to receive the invitations. I wanted to hear their reaction firsthand and answer any questions they might have about the arrangements. My hands trembled slightly as I dialed their number one Sunday afternoon. My mother answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Hi, Mom, it's Sophia. Do you have a few minutes to talk? I have some exciting news." "Let me turn down the TV," she said. I heard my father grumbling in the background about pausing his program. "Richard, it's Sophia," my mother explained, as if that might not be sufficient reason to interrupt his viewing. Once I had their attention, I took a deep breath. "Nathan and I have finalized our wedding plans. We're getting married in Maui, Hawaii in October." "Hawaii," my mother echoed. "That's very far away, Sophia." "I know," I acknowledged, which is why I'm calling. "I've actually arranged something special for the family." I explained that I had booked and paid for first-class flights and resort accommodations for all of them, including Heather's family. There was a moment of stunned silence before my father spoke. "First class? To Hawaii? That must have cost a fortune." I downplayed the expense, not wanting to make them uncomfortable. I wanted to make it special. "You'll have your own beachfront suite, and Heather's family will have a 2-bedroom villa. Everything's taken care of, including airport transfers and daily breakfast." "Well," my mother said, her voice warming slightly, "that's very generous of you, Sophia." My heart lifted at the approval in her tone. For once, I'd done something right in their eyes. "I need to tell Heather about this," my mother continued, excitement building in her voice. "Can I call her now?" "Of course," I said, smiling. "I'll email everyone the full itineraries, but the dates are October 15th through 25th, with the wedding on the 20th. After hanging up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Their initial reaction had been more positive than I dared hope. Within an hour, I received enthusiastic text messages from Heather and Marcus, expressing disbelief and gratitude. "OMG, Sophia. First class to Hawaii? The kids are freaking out. Thank you." Heather wrote. In the following weeks, our wedding plans continued to progress smoothly. Jasmine secured our preferred vendors, including a renowned local chef for the reception dinner and a string quartet for the ceremony. Nathan and I finalized our vows and selected readings. I found my perfect dress, a sleek, modern gown with subtle beading that caught the light like sea foam. I regularly checked in with my family about their trip preparations. My mother mentioned shopping for resort wear, and Heather asked questions about activities for the children. My father even called once to ask about appropriate attire for a beach wedding. These small interactions nourished my hope that the wedding might mark a turning point in our relationship. I sent them information about excursions they might enjoy in Maui, offering to arrange and cover those as well. I wanted their experience to be flawless. About 4 months before the wedding, I noticed a subtle shift in their communication. My parents became less responsive to texts and calls, often taking days to reply. When we did speak, they seemed vague about their preparations. "Have you all applied for your passports?" I asked during one call, knowing they hadn't traveled internationally before. "We're working on it," my mother replied dismissively. "There's plenty of time." Heather, previously enthusiastic, began mentioning potential conflicts. "Marcus might have a work thing come up," she said vaguely when I called in July. "But we're still planning to be there." A small knot of anxiety began to form in my stomach, but I dismissed it. They wouldn't miss my wedding, not after I'd removed every possible obstacle. Perhaps they were just busy with summer activities and would refocus on wedding preparations as the date approached. Leslie, our travel agent, contacted me in August about confirming some details for my family's bookings. She mentioned that she'd tried reaching my parents directly as requested but hadn't received responses. "It's important they complete the pre-arrival forms for the resort," she explained, "and we should finalize any dietary restrictions for the flights." I assured her I would handle it and immediately called my parents. My father answered, sounding unusually hurried. "Dad, the travel agent needs some information from you guys. Can you call her back today?" "I'm heading out the door for golf," he replied. "Your mother handles that sort of thing. I'll tell her to call tomorrow." The next day passed with no contact from my mother. When I called again, the conversation felt strained. "We've been meaning to talk to you about the trip," my mother finally said. "Richard's having some issues with his back, and the long flight might be problematic." My heart sank. "There are ways to make the flight more comfortable," I offered quickly. "We could arrange for special accommodations, or break up the journey with an overnight in California." "We'll figure something out," she said, not committing to anything. Heather's also concerned about Bella missing school. Bella, my oldest niece, was in 2nd grade. Missing a week of elementary school hardly seemed catastrophic, but I didn't argue. "The resort has tutoring services for guests," I mentioned instead, "and her teachers could provide assignments in advance." Each concern they raised, I addressed with solutions. Yet their enthusiasm seemed to be waning inexplicably. The knot of anxiety in my stomach grew larger. As September arrived, with the wedding just 6 weeks away, communication with my family became increasingly difficult. Calls went to voicemail, texts received delayed, non-committal responses. Leslie expressed growing concern about the unconfirmed travel details. "Sophia," she said gently during a call, "we'll need to finalize these arrangements within the next week, or we risk losing the reservations." That evening, I confided my worries to Nathan as we prepared dinner in our apartment. "I'm starting to think they don't want to come," I admitted, blinking back tears as I chopped onions. "But why wouldn't they just tell me?" Nathan wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Let's not jump to conclusions. They're probably just disorganized. Why don't you offer to help them complete the paperwork?" I nodded, grateful for his optimistic perspective. The next day, I sent a comprehensive email detailing exactly what needed to be done and offering to handle the paperwork myself if they provided the necessary information. 3 days passed without response. My anxiety evolved into a persistent dread that followed me through my workdays and disrupted my sleep. The dream of having my family at my wedding was beginning to crumble, and I couldn't understand why. With just over a month until our wedding, the silence from my family became deafening. Determined to resolve whatever issues were causing their hesitation, I decided to make a surprise visit to Milwaukee. I told my office I needed a personal day, booked a Friday morning flight, and texted my mother that I was coming to help finalize their travel plans. Her response came hours later. "This weekend isn't good. Your father and I are very busy." The dismissal stung, but I was beyond accepting vague excuses. "I'll only need a couple of hours of your time," I replied. "It's important we get these details sorted out." I arrived at their house Friday afternoon, rental car parked in the driveway. When my mother answered the door, her surprise seemed tinged with annoyance rather than pleasure. "Sophia, I told you we're busy this weekend," she said, reluctantly stepping aside to let me in. The house looked different, with suitcases visible in the hallway and travel guides scattered on the coffee table. None were for Hawaii. "Are you going somewhere?" I asked, picking up a guidebook for Paris. My mother snatched it from my hand. "Just doing some research for a potential trip next year." My father emerged from his study, equally startled to see me. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" I explained about the urgent need to finalize their travel arrangements for the wedding, pulling out my laptop to show them the forms we needed to complete. "About that," my father said, exchanging a glance with my mother. "We've been meaning to call you. There might be a problem with the dates." A cold feeling spread through my chest. "What kind of problem?" "The wedding is in 5 weeks." They launched into a series of vague explanations about work commitments, health concerns, and conflicts with the children's school schedules. Each excuse sounded less convincing than the last. "Let me help you work through these issues," I pleaded. "Whatever the problems are, we can solve them together." When they continued to hedge, I made a bold offer. "Let me help you with your passports. I can expedite the process if you haven't started yet." "We have our passports," my father said sharply, then looked as if he regretted the admission. "You do? That's great," I said, confused by his reaction. "When did you get them?" "Recently," my mother interjected, "for future travel opportunities." Something wasn't adding up. If they had already obtained passports, why the reluctance to confirm the Hawaii trip? I asked if I could use their bathroom, but instead of going there, I quietly slipped into my father's study. His computer was still on, email open. Subject lines about Paris itinerary and London hotel confirmation immediately caught my eye. Before I could investigate further, my father appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" "Looking for a pen," I lied, moving away from the computer. "Dad, is there something you're not telling me about the wedding trip?" His expression hardened. "You should go, Sophia. We'll call you next week to discuss everything." They practically pushed me out the door, my questions unanswered, and my anxiety skyrocketing. As I drove to my hotel, I called Heather, determined to get answers. "Heather, what's going on with everyone? Mom and Dad are acting strange about the wedding trip." My sister sounded uncomfortable. "I really can't talk right now, Sophia. Bella has a recital. This will only take a minute. Have Mom and Dad said anything to you about not coming to the wedding?" After a pause, Heather sighed. "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of this. You should talk to them directly." I just tried. They're avoiding the subject completely. "And why do they have travel guides for Europe?" "I have to go," Heather said quickly. "Bella's about to perform." That night in my hotel room, unable to sleep, I logged into the email account I had used to book my family's travel arrangements. I had shared the login information with my parents so they could access their itineraries. Scanning recent activity, I noticed several emails had been marked as read that I hadn't opened. One was a notification from the airline about a requested change to the reservations. With growing dread, I called the airline's customer service line. "I'm checking on reservations under the name Hamilton," I explained to the representative. "Has there been any request to change these bookings?" After verifying my identity, the representative confirmed my fears. Yes, there was a request to change the destination from Maui to Paris, but it couldn't be processed without additional payment for the fare difference. The request came through about 3 weeks ago. My blood ran cold. Paris, not Maui. The same destination I had seen in the guidebook at my parents' house. The next morning, I drove back to my parents' house, determined to confront them with what I discovered. When no one answered the door, I used my old key to enter. The house was empty, the suitcases gone. On the kitchen counter was a note. Gone to Heather's for the weekend. Please lock up when you leave. I called Nathan, my voice shaking as I explained what I'd found. They're planning a trip to Europe instead of coming to our wedding, I said, tears streaming down my face. They tried to use the tickets I bought them to change destinations. Nathan's voice was steady, a lifeline in my emotional storm. Come home, Sophia. We'll figure this out together. I changed my return flight to that afternoon, but before leaving, I made one last stop at Heather's house. Her car was in the driveway, alongside my parents'. When she answered the door, her expression confirmed what I already knew. You're all planning a trip to Europe during my wedding, aren't you? I asked without preamble. Heather's eyes darted away. It's complicated, Sophia. Explain it to me then. Help me understand how using the tickets I bought for my wedding to go to Europe instead is complicated. She invited me inside, where my parents sat at the dining room table with travel documents spread before them. They looked up, startled and guilty. What is this? I demanded. I spent $32,000 to bring you all to my wedding, and you're using it for a European vacation instead? My mother recovered first. We were going to tell you, Sophia. We just couldn't find the right time. The right time would have been before I spent my savings on your flights and accommodations, I said, my voice rising. Why couldn't you just be honest with me? Hawaii doesn't make sense for us, my father argued. The kids would enjoy Europe more, and Heather's always wanted to see Paris. The implications of his statement hit me like a physical blow. And seeing me get married doesn't matter? The uncomfortable silence that followed was answer enough. Once again, Heather's desires had taken precedence over my milestone event. We can't change the tickets anyway, my mother added, as if that resolved everything. The airline wouldn't let us, without paying the difference. So, your plan was to just not show up to my wedding? Without even telling me? The hurt was so deep it left me breathless. No one responded. In that moment, surrounded by the family who had consistently chosen each other over me, I made a decision. Keep the tickets, I said quietly. Consider them my last gift to you. But don't expect to be part of my life after this. I walked out, ignoring their calls to come back and talk. There was nothing left to say. On the flight back to New York, I grieved not for the lost money, but for the family relationship I had spent decades trying to salvage. The week before my wedding should have been filled with joyful anticipation. Instead, I was dealing with the emotional aftermath of my family's betrayal. Nathan had been my rock, holding me through tearful nights and reminding me that our marriage was about us, not my family's approval. We're creating our own family now, he would say, wiping away my tears. One built on love and mutual respect. Despite his support, I struggled to focus on last-minute wedding details. Jasmine, our wedding planner, had been incredibly understanding when I explained the situation. Unfortunately, family disappointments are more common with destination weddings than people realize, she said sympathetically during our final planning call. But we'll make adjustments to ensure your day is still perfect. We revised seating arrangements and adjusted our catering numbers. I tried to focus on the positive. Many of our friends and Nathan's family were still coming, nearly 50 guests who genuinely wanted to celebrate with us. 6 days before we were scheduled to fly to Maui, as I was packing my wedding dress for shipping, my phone buzzed with a text message from my mother. Just wanted to let you know we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. Heather found incredible deals on additional activities. You're not worth seeing in a wedding dress anyway. Have a nice life. I stared at the message, unable to comprehend the cruelty behind those words. My hands shook so badly, I dropped the phone. Nathan found me curled on the floor beside our bed, the wedding dress half-packed beside me. When I showed him the message, his face darkened with anger. That's inexcusable, he said, pulling me into his arms. No mother should ever say that to her daughter. What's wrong with me? I sobbed against his chest. Why have they never loved me enough? Nothing is wrong with you, Nathan said firmly. Their inability to appreciate the amazing person you are reflects their limitations, not your worth. That evening, as I scrolled mindlessly through social media trying to distract myself, a notification appeared. Heather had tagged my parents in photos. With a sense of dread, I clicked on the images. There they were, my parents and Heather's family, smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. The caption read, "Day 1 of our European adventure. So grateful for this incredible opportunity. #blessed #family vacation." The timestamp showed they had already left, days earlier than they'd told me. They had lied even about their departure date. Seeing them beaming in Paris, while I was devastated in New York, brought a fresh wave of pain. Nathan found me staring at the photos, tears streaming silently down my face. Without a word, he took my phone and set it aside, then led me to our couch where he wrapped me in a blanket. "I'm calling Dr. Matthews," he said, referring to my therapist. "This warrants an emergency session." Dr. Matthews agreed to see me the next morning. In her calm office, I poured out everything from the childhood pattern of favoritism to the current betrayal. "What your family has done is a profound rejection," she acknowledged. "But it's also an opportunity to finally free yourself from seeking approval you may never receive." "Should we cancel the wedding?" I asked, the question that had been lurking in my mind. Dr. Matthews leaned forward. "Do you want to marry Nathan?" "More than anything," I answered without hesitation. "Then don't let your family take that joy from you too," she said firmly. "They've already taken enough." That afternoon, Nathan and I had a heart-to-heart about proceeding with the wedding. We discussed postponing, simplifying, or even eloping. In the end, we decided to move forward as planned. "This wedding is about our love and commitment," Nathan reminded me, "not about who sits in the audience." With renewed determination, I threw myself into final preparations. Jasmine helped rearrange the ceremony layout to make the smaller guest count look intentional rather than like there were missing attendees. We reallocated some of the budget to enhance other elements of the wedding, upgrading the dinner menu and adding a spectacular fireworks display. 2 days before our departure, Nathan came home with an unexpected announcement. "I've invited a few additional guests," he said, looking slightly nervous. "I hope that's okay." "Who?" I asked, surprised. "Remember Julian Sanders, the musician we met at the charity gala last year? He's agreed to perform at our ceremony. And Margaret Chen from the Educational Foundation has also accepted. She's bringing her husband." Julian was a Grammy-winning pianist whose music I adored, and Margaret was a renowned philanthropist we had worked with on several charity projects. Both were people I admired greatly, but considered more professional acquaintances than close friends. "You invited celebrities to our wedding?" I asked, astonished. Nathan shrugged. "I reached out explaining the situation, how your family had abandoned you, and asked if they might help make our day special. They both responded immediately that they'd be honored to attend." Fresh tears filled my eyes, but this time from overwhelming gratitude. "You did that for me? I'd do anything to see you smile on our wedding day," he said simply. As we finished packing that evening, I received an unexpected email from my mother's sister, Aunt Patricia. She and my mother had been estranged for years due to some family dispute I never fully understood. "Sophia, I heard about your wedding from a mutual friend. I know we haven't been close in recent years, but I would love to attend if that's possible. I've already booked my flight to Maui." I called her immediately, explaining the situation with my parents and sister. Rather than being surprised, Patricia sighed deeply. "Your mother has always been jealous of others' happiness," she said. "Even as children, she couldn't stand when attention wasn't on her. I'm not surprised she's passed that trait to Heather." Patricia's validation of my experience was healing in a way I hadn't anticipated. For the first time, I felt like someone from my family truly saw the dynamic I'd struggled with my entire life. "I would be honored to have you at my wedding," I told her, meaning every word. "I'll be there," she promised. "And if you'd like, I'd be happy to take on any role your mother would have had." The night before our flight, I logged out of all social media accounts, determined not to torture myself with more photos of my family's European adventure. Instead, Nathan and I focused on our own journey, preparing to create memories that would form the foundation of our marriage. As we fell asleep, I realized that while the pain of my family's rejection was still raw, it no longer threatened to overshadow the joy of marrying the man I loved. Perhaps that was the first step toward healing. The morning of our wedding dawned with perfect Maui weather, clear skies, and a gentle breeze rustling the palm trees outside our ocean view suite. As I sipped coffee on the balcony, watching early surfers catch waves, I felt an unexpected sense of calm. The hurt wasn't gone, but it had transformed into something quieter, a dull ache rather than the sharp pain of recent weeks. My bridal preparations were scheduled to begin at 10, with the ceremony at sunset. Nathan kissed me before heading to his separate preparation room, where his brothers and father would join him. "Next time I see you, you'll be walking down the aisle," he said, his eyes shining with love. My makeup artist and hairstylist arrived precisely on time, turning my suite into a bridal sanctuary. As they worked, my college roommate Rachel and two close work friends arrived, champagne in hand and ready to help me prepare. "You look radiant," Rachel said, hugging me carefully to avoid disturbing the makeup artist's work. Nathan won't know what hit him. Jasmine appeared periodically to provide updates and ensure everything was running smoothly. During one visit, she pulled me aside with a mysterious smile. "Nathan has arranged some surprises for you," she whispered. "Just go with it and enjoy." Around noon, there was a knock at the door. Jasmine answered it and then turned to me with a broad smile. "Your first surprise is here." Aunt Patricia entered, looking elegant in a seafoam green dress that perfectly complemented our wedding colors. Behind her came a distinguished-looking man I didn't recognize. "Sophia," Patricia said, embracing me warmly. "You look absolutely beautiful. I hope you don't mind, but I've brought someone special to meet you. This is your Uncle David, my husband." I stared in shock. I'd never met David, having lost touch with Patricia during the years of estrangement. "We've been married for 5 years, Patricia explained. "I sent announcements, but I suspect your mother never shared that information. Another piece of family history deliberately kept from me." I welcomed David warmly, touched that they had both made the journey. "There's something else," Patricia said, looking slightly nervous. "I know this is unorthodox, but in the absence of your parents, would you consider allowing David and me to walk you down the aisle? We would be honored to stand in." Tears threatened to ruin my carefully applied makeup. "I would love that," I managed to say. As the afternoon progressed, my nerves settled into excited anticipation. My dress, a sleek column of ivory silk with delicate beading that caught the light like sea spray, fit perfectly. With my hair swept up in an elegant updo adorned with small white orchids, I felt more beautiful than I ever had. An hour before the ceremony, Jasmine arrived with news that guests were beginning to gather on the beach. "Everything is ready when you are," she assured me. "And Nathan has one more surprise waiting." Curious, I followed her to a small private courtyard where Julian Sanders, the acclaimed pianist, was setting up beside a magnificent white grand piano. "Julian," I exclaimed, surprised to see him before the ceremony. He stood and embraced me. "Nathan thought you might appreciate a private performance before walking down the aisle. To center yourself." For the next 20 minutes, Julian played soul-stirring compositions that seemed to speak directly to my heart. As the music washed over me, I felt the last remnants of bitterness about my family melt away. Today wasn't about who was missing, but about who had chosen to be present. When it was time, I made my way with Patricia and David to the ceremony location. Peeking from behind a decorative screen of tropical flowers, I could see our guests seated in white chairs on the golden sand, the Pacific Ocean providing a breathtaking backdrop. The setting sun cast everything in a magical golden glow. Nathan stood at the altar, handsome in his light gray suit, looking both nervous and elated. Beside him were his brothers as groomsmen, and across from them stood my bridesmaids in flowing seafoam dresses. In the front row sat Nathan's parents, beaming with pride. Beside them was Margaret Chin, the philanthropist, alongside several high-profile guests I recognized from charity events. Julian had taken his place at the piano, ready to provide the ceremony music. "Ready?" Patricia asked, offering her arm alongside David's. I took a deep breath and nodded. As Julian began playing Canon in D, we stepped onto the white runner that served as our aisle. Gasps and murmurs of appreciation rippled through the guests as they turned to see me. Nathan's face as he watched me approach was everything I could have hoped for, his eyes filling with tears of joy. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that I was exactly where I was meant to be, with exactly the right people surrounding us. The ceremony was magical in its simplicity and sincerity. We exchanged vows we had written ourselves. Couple, I was struck by the genuine joy on every face. These people, some blood relations, others chosen family, all shared in our happiness without reservation. The reception exceeded even my highest expectations. Under a canopy of twinkling lights strung between palm trees, we dined on exquisite local cuisine and danced to Julian's live performance. Margaretchen offered a surprise toast, speaking eloquently about the power of choosing one's family and building a life on mutual respect and admiration. Sophia and Nathan, she concluded, raising her glass, may your marriage be defined not by who is absent today, but by who chose to be present, and by the family you create together. Nathan's father also spoke, welcoming me to their family with such warmth that several guests wiped away tears. From the moment Nathan introduced you, Thomas said, we knew you were special. Your intelligence, kindness, and strength impressed us immediately. Today, we don't just gain a daughter-in-law, we gain a daughter. Throughout the evening, Nathan rarely left my side, his hand often finding mine as if to reassure himself that this was real. During a quiet moment between dances, he leaned close to my ear. Any regrets? He asked softly. I looked around at the joyful celebration, at the people who had traveled thousands of miles to witness our union, at the beauty of our surroundings, and finally at my husband's loving face. Not a single one, I answered truthfully. This is perfect. Later, our photographer pulled us aside to capture sunset portraits on the beach. As we posed against the spectacular Hawaiian sunset, I realized I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of seeking my family's approval had lifted, replaced by the certainty that I was worthy of love exactly as I was. They're going to be incredible, the photographer assured us, reviewing some of the shots on her camera. These are the kind of photos people can't help but comment on. Nathan smiled at me knowingly. We had already discussed posting select wedding photos online, not out of spite, but as a celebration of our joy. If my family happened to see them and realize what they had missed, so be it. As the night drew to a close, Nathan and I slipped away from the reception to walk barefoot along the moonlit beach. The sounds of our celebration faded behind us as we strolled hand in hand. Thank you, I said, stopping to face him. For everything. For loving me, for creating this magical day, for showing me what family should be. Thank you for choosing me, he replied simply. For trusting me with your heart. I promise to treasure it always. Under the vast Hawaiian sky, surrounded by the gentle rhythm of waves, we sealed that promise with a kiss that felt like the beginning of everything. The morning after our wedding, Nathan and I awoke to sunrise streaming through the windows of our honeymoon suite. As we enjoyed breakfast on our private balcony, our photographer sent a preview of our wedding photos. They were breathtaking, capturing not just the visual beauty of the day, but the authentic emotion and joy that had surrounded us. These are incredible, Nathan said, scrolling through the images. You look absolutely stunning. One photo in particular caught my attention, Nathan and I dancing, surrounded by Julian Sanders playing piano, with Margaretchen and several other notable guests visible in the background. The golden sunset light gave everything an almost magical quality. That one, I said, pointing. That's the one I want to share. With Nathan's encouragement, I crafted a simple post. The most perfect day with the most perfect man, surrounded by true friends and family. Thank you to everyone who made our wedding so special, especially Julian Sanders for the incredible music and Margaretchen for your beautiful toast. #JustMarried, #Maui, #ChosenAmelie. I hesitated only briefly before hitting post, then turned off notifications and set my phone aside. This day was for us, not for monitoring reactions. We spent our first day as a married couple exploring Maui, snorkeling with sea turtles and enjoying a romantic beachfront dinner. It wasn't until late that evening that I checked my phone again. The post had exploded with comments and likes, mostly from friends expressing joy and congratulations. But among the notifications were several missed calls and messages from my family. Heather had texted multiple times. Is that the Julie and Sanders at your wedding? How do you know Margaret Chin? Why didn't you tell us important people would be there? My mother had left a voicemail, her tone dripping with artificial concern. Sophia, we're worried about you posting such exaggerated photos. People might get the wrong impression about your wedding. Call us when you can. My father's message was more direct. You didn't need to make such a public spectacle. Very immature. I showed the messages to Nathan, who pulled me close. Are you okay? I considered the question carefully, searching my feelings. Actually, yes. Their reactions are so predictable, it's almost funny. They're not upset about missing my wedding, they're upset about missing an opportunity to meet celebrities. What do you want to do? Nathan asked. Nothing, I decided. They don't deserve a response. The next morning, I woke to more messages. Apparently, several mutual acquaintances had asked my parents about the wedding, having seen my photos online. Uncomfortable with admitting they had chosen a European vacation instead, they had crafted a narrative about health issues preventing travel. People are asking questions, my mother wrote. You're making us look bad. We need to coordinate our stories. For the first time, I felt completely unburdened by their manipulation. I showed Nathan the message, and then deleted it without responding. They can coordinate whatever stories they want, I said. I'm done participating in their fiction. Our 10-day honeymoon became a healing journey. We explored Maui's waterfalls, drove the road to Hana, watched the sunrise from Haleakala volcano, and spent lazy afternoons on secluded beaches. Each day, I felt lighter, more present, more connected to Nathan and to my authentic self. On our last evening in Hawaii, sitting on the beach watching another spectacular sunset, Nathan asked, "What are you thinking about?" How grateful I am, I answered honestly. If my family had come, I would have spent the entire time seeking their approval, trying to make sure they were enjoying themselves, worrying about their reactions. Their absence gave me the freedom to fully experience our wedding. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the universe gives us what we need, not what we think we want. Returning to New York felt like coming home to a new life. We moved Nathan's remaining belongings into my apartment, which would be our home until we found a larger place. Unpacking our wedding gifts and arranging photos from our honeymoon, we created a space that reflected our shared journey. The first Tuesday after our return, I kept my regular appointment with Dr. Matthews. I brought wedding photos to share and recounted the entire experience, from the initial pain of my family's betrayal to the surprising peace I'd found in their absence. I've spent my entire life trying to earn their love, I explained, always believing that if I achieved enough, succeeded enough, gave enough, they would finally see me. Hawaii was my last attempt, and it cost me $32,000 to finally accept the truth. Which is? Dr. Matthews prompted. That nothing I do will ever be enough, I said. The problem was never me. It was always them and their limitations. And continuing to seek their approval would only hurt me and potentially my marriage. Dr. Matthews smiled. That's an incredibly powerful realization. How do you want to move forward? With boundaries, I said decisively. I'm not cutting them off completely, but I'm no longer investing emotional energy in changing our relationship. I'll interact with them on my terms, when and if I choose to. Over the following weeks, my family continued their attempts to contact me. When I finally did answer a call from my mother, I was calm and direct. I understand you chose a European vacation over attending my wedding. That was your decision to make. But I won't pretend it didn't happen, and I won't help you save face with your friends. If you want a relationship with me moving forward, it will be with complete honesty and respect. My mother sputtered excuses and justifications, but I remained firm. Those are my terms. Take some time to think about whether you can accept them. Similar conversations with my father and Heather established my new boundaries. They were predictably defensive, accusing me of being dramatic and unforgiving. But for once, their opinions didn't devastate me. Nathan and I settled into married life with joy and intention. We hosted dinner parties for friends, joined a couples book club, and began volunteering together at an educational foundation for underprivileged students. On weekends, we often visited Nathan's parents in Connecticut, where I was always welcomed with genuine affection. 6 months after our wedding, Nathan's mother Barbara invited me for a private lunch during one of our visits. "I hope you don't mind," she said as we settled at a corner table in her favorite restaurant, "but I wanted to check in on how you're doing with your family situation." I appreciated her directness and concern. Better than I ever expected, I answered truthfully. Setting boundaries has been freeing. They occasionally reach out, usually when they want something or when relatives ask about me, but I no longer feel obligated to respond. Barbara nodded. "I hope you know that Thomas and I consider you our daughter in every way that matters. Family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up, who supports you, who celebrates your joys and shares your sorrows." Tears pricked at my eyes. "Thank you for showing me what family should be." A year after our wedding, Nathan and I celebrated our anniversary by returning to Maui, staying in the same resort where we had married. Sitting on the beach where we had exchanged vows, we reflected on our journey. "This year has taught me so much about what truly matters," I told Nathan. "I spent so long chasing approval from people incapable of giving it that I almost missed recognizing the genuine love that was right in front of me." "I'm glad you finally saw it," Nathan said, squeezing my hand. "You deserve every bit of it and more." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I felt a profound sense of peace. The $32,000 I had spent on my family's non-attendance had been the most valuable investment of my life, buying me freedom from a lifetime of seeking validation where it would never be found. In its place, I had discovered my own worth, independent of others' recognition. I had found family in friends who showed up, in in-laws who embraced me wholeheartedly, and most importantly, in the man beside me who loved me exactly as I was. That evening, I posted a simple anniversary photo of us on the beach, captioned, "1 year ago, I learned that sometimes the best family is the one you choose." Forever grateful for this man and the life we're building together. If you've ever experienced family disappointment or had to create boundaries with loved ones, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. How did you find healing? Did you also discover that family isn't always about blood? Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they are worthy of love, exactly as they are. Thank you for being part of my journey of healing and self-discovery.